want to thank everybody first of all for thanks for coming out tonight, taking some time out of, I know, a lot of people's busy days, to spend some time on here getting informed and getting up to speed with what's going on. It's obviously very important. We have a very short election cycle here with the special election, and the voters do not have a lot of time to evaluate candidates and make informed decisions. So taking that first step to get the information is very commendable. I wish we had every voter in the state, in this country, to take the time out to do what everybody here tonight has already done. I'll tell you a little bit about myself real quick. I was born and raised in the Pocono Mountains, Pennsylvania. Grew up, went to high school there. In 18, I joined the military right out of high school. Went in as a nuclear weapons specialist, if you can do that, and worked on real-life nuclear bombs as an 18-year-old. The Army was very trusting back then. That was the height of the Cold War. Ronald Reagan and all those guys were fighting the Soviets. After about 3 years in the nuclear weapons field, I got attached to a special forces unit in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, that had a nuclear mission with a little thing called a backpack unit called SAFE. And I got to hang out with these guys, and they basically Tom Sawyered me. And they said, hey, I was a PFC at the time. Hey, PFC, you wanna carry the bomb for a while? I'm like, I carry the bomb? All right. And they go, hey, you want to jump out of a plane with us? I'm like, wow, great. So I kind of got in with these guys, and I liked what they did, so I decided to put my paperwork in and join Special Forces. Commonly known as the Green Berets. John Wayne did the movie. So I did that. My first mission in Special Forces was I went to Pakistan and was involved with this codenamed Operation Brass Hat. Some people may know it as Charlie Wilson's War, if you've seen the movie. My first mission was to train the Mujahideen to fight the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan back in the 80s, late 80s. After that, came back from that, got involved in Desert Storm, Saddam invaded Kuwait, was part of the liberation, led the hodgepodge Kuwaiti military back into liberating Kuwait City. It was a very emotional thing to see people that had had their freedom and their country ripped from them fight to get it back. It's a message that I wish everybody in our country that takes our freedom for granted would learn. A couple years later, I was involved in operations in Africa, Horn of Africa, Somalia, Kenya. You guys all know what the story was. I was not there when, unfortunately, the Mogadishu incident went down, but we did a lot with peacekeeping and humanitarian aid at that time. I did a bunch of other missions in Sierra Leone, Liberia, and then South Africa, Botswana, and I actually went and protected some elephants out there. That's another story. Bill Clinton stopped poaching in Botswana. We were involved with the counter-poaching mission there. Went to Haiti, did the Haiti mission when Haiti went down. I got to go on every pretty much shindig that the country did from the late 80s, with the exception of the Balkans. I didn't do the Balkans. Was an instructor at the Special Forces School, the John F. Kennedy Center at Fort Bragg. For 4 years I taught the combat medic course there and trained every Navy SEAL corpsman, Air Force pararescueman, Army Special Forces medic, and Ranger medic in the Special Operations Command came through the school that I was a head instructor for. That allowed me to go to New York City and work as a paramedic in New York with the New York Fire Department for a year, which was a wonderful experience. Got me involved in the civilian healthcare side, and I got a great lesson working in the emergency rooms and with the fire department out there. After I finished up at the Special Warfare Center, unfortunately 9/11 happened. I was assigned at the time to the 3rd Special Forces Group at Fort Bragg. On September 13th, I was on an airplane leaving the country, literally 2 days later. The next thing I know, I'm sitting on an icy cold mountain in Afghanistan in the snow, dropping bombs on the guys that flew airplanes into the buildings in New York. Was in Afghanistan all the way until May of 2002. I was involved in Operation Anaconda. During that operation, the Afghans that we were with were ambushed by the Taliban. I was the only medic at the time that was there. I had to treat 13 seriously wounded Afghan soldiers. I was able to save all but one of them. One of them didn't make it. I was put in for the Bronze Star during that operation for that, and I received the Bronze Star for that from my commander for saving their lives. Came back from Afghanistan. I got promoted to team sergeant on the Special Forces A team, and trained a new A team up and went into Afghanistan during the initial into Iraq during the initial invasion of Iraq. And my team got in the largest single tank battle in northern Iraq during the Iraq War I was put in for the Silver Star for that battle. I took out a tank and an armored personnel carrier and a bunch of other small vehicles. But the general said, well, you only took out 2 armored vehicles. This guy took out 6, so we're going to give him the Silver Star. We're going to give you a Bronze Star for valor. I'm okay with that. But so I got a Bronze Star for valor from that episode. Did another rotation in Afghanistan, came back, and then retired from the military after almost 21 years. Retired as a sergeant first class. Got a job here in Tucson working for a large defense contractor. Been there 8 years as a program manager. I develop hybrid robotic vehicles, and I consult other programs on land warfare and special operations related programs, which is still my forte. Ran for the legislature, well, I actually ran for Congress in 2006. Came in 4th place out of the 5-way primary. Kind of like what we have now. Hopefully we'll do much better this time. Readjusted, ran for the legislature in 2008. If everybody remembers back 2008, I had so many people say, why in your right mind, it is the worst time to get elected. The state is facing a $3 billion budget deficit. You're going to have to go up there and make some really tough decisions, and nobody's going to like you when you're done. They're going to all be mad at you because nobody likes getting their budget cut or being told they don't get as much money this year as they got before. And you're going to, why would you do that? I said, because we need to. It is so important to get this state back on sound financial footing. 2 weeks after I got elected, or after I got sworn in rather, we were voting on the budget from the previous legislature that was $800 million out of whack. We had to fix their budget from the last year, and then shortly after that, we put out our first budget. It took us 3 years to whittle away at that deficit. But last year, we finally passed the budget after 3 years that was completely balanced. And actually now, because of that, we have what some people call a surplus. I call it a positive cash flow because we still have $3 billion of debt that we have that was borrowed during those years when certain other individuals were wanting to show up there in Phoenix when they were going wild with their credit card. We're in the budget process right now. That's what we're doing up there. I'm the Senate whip now, majority whip in the Senate, and I'm on the budget negotiation. And we've got a budget right now that's going to come out here shortly it's got no more cuts. We're not cutting anything else. We're done with that. There's no cuts, but there's no gimmicks, there's no sweeps, there's no borrowing, and there's no spending issues. We're going to hold the line, and we're going to take a straight, steady course as we work our way out of this economy and as Arizona recovers. We don't need to go back spending money and then only 2 or 3 later when we have another maybe double-dip recession happening to go back and reduce spending again and put people through all that pain all over again. So we're going to continue the fiscal responsibility in this state of delivering a budget that stays in line with revenue. We're not going to spend any more money than we take in, which is what everybody here, if you run your household budgets the way most people do, you can't, for long, spend more money than you're bringing in. You know, you get bad credit, you get bankrupt and all that. Well, that's how the state was just 3 years ago. We were in that mess. Now we're not. Our credit rating, S&P raised our credit rating. We're going to get another credit rating increase here in a few weeks because, again, we're generating revenue, we're paying off our debt, we're putting money in our rainy day economy. We've got to do that at the federal level. If there's anybody that honestly believes that we can spend our way to prosperity and spend our way out of this financial district, you're in the wrong spot. You're in the wrong spot. That's not what I'm about. If you honestly think that you can tax your way out of this mess, you're in the wrong spot right now. The problem with our country is we don't need more taxes. We need more taxpayers. I stood up on the floor of the House my first year when there was an effort to raise taxes. And I said, look, we lost 300,000 jobs in Arizona during this recession. The problem is we don't need more taxes. We need those 300,000 jobs back because those 300,000 people pay taxes. And when 300,000 more people are working, revenue goes up. And that's what we got to do in this country. We have surrendered our manufacturing to overseas. China and India do it because it is no longer profitable for companies that manufacture large scale, except some that are protected under certain laws in this country, to produce in the United States. Why? Regulatory costs, environmental burdens, taxes, the labor costs, are too cost prohibitive, and they ship it all overseas. And when they do that, they ship everybody's job away. Manufacturing is what generates wealth. It takes something of little value, puts it through a process, and when it comes out at the end, it's worth a lot more, and they can sell that to generate wealth. That's the mindset we've got to get back to this country. We've got to bring those jobs back. We've got to make America the most pro-business place on this planet, and the revenue will come back from it. We got to do that by reducing the regulatory burden, which is basically a boost on the neck of the business community in this country. And you've got to get folks up there that understand that. We've seen that here in Arizona. We've got jobs coming in. We were 7th last quarter for job growth in the entire country. I'm disappointed we weren't first. We're going to work on that. But to think that there were 43 other states that did worse than us, and there are other states like Illinois and California that are in such bad shape because they refuse to make those tough decisions that they are now begging the federal government to be bailed out. And the hardworking taxpayers in this state said, no, we're going to solve our own problems. We have to have people that understand what government's for. It's about protecting your liberty, your individual liberty and your economic liberty. They can't be raiding your pockets every 5 minutes to go spend money on what they think is some other good feel-good endeavor. You have to allow people to benefit from their hard work and labor. Nobody's against paying taxes. We all know that is, sir. In order to protect this country, we need a strong government. We need to have taxes to do that. We need to have a system that protects the most vulnerable in this country. Government has to be there for that safety net. But it cannot be a solution for everybody's little problem. It can't be the go-to guy for every little thing that everybody wants. Thomas Jefferson said it. A government that's big enough to give you everything you want is big enough to take away everything you have. And we're at that point right now. If you look what this current administration has been trying to do, they've been literally trying to take over everything. Take over the healthcare system, take over the media with their fairness doctrine, take over the internet. Where are they going to stop? They want it all. That is scary to me. It should be scary to everybody here today. You got to have somebody that's willing to take the political lumps to go up there and fight. I have been fighting since the day I set foot on the ground here in Arizona. I've actually been fighting protecting liberty since 1984 when I joined the Army, because I know how precious and important. When you see people who have had their freedom ripped from them, and what they go through when they no longer have that freedom, they have a tyrant telling them how to run their lives. It is an eye-opening experience. It is a wake-up call. And then to see them get that freedom back, and the emotion that goes with them getting back that freedom, it's another very eye-opening experience. We are at that point that we're going to lose that in this country. We've got to fight for it. I'm willing to fight for it. I've been fighting for it. I've got the lumps from the media, from taking on these tough issues and picking fights that people say, why would you pick a fight, Frank? Just go up there and kind of blend into the woodwork and kind of, vote on the non-controversial stuff. Don't cause any problems. Don't stir the pot. We don't want you to get voted on office. Well, I'm not up there. I have a nice job with a decent salary. I'm sure my wife would love to see me. Okay? I don't go up there, as I've told people, to make friends. My friends are all back here, the people that I represent in my district. I go up there to do a job, and I believe I have an inherent duty to look out for the best interests of the people I represent. And if they don't think I'm doing a good job, they can fire me. And I'll just go back to my normal, mundane life, and I'm sure my wife would be thrilled. But in the meantime, I think we needed to save this state from financial ruin. And now I believe we need to save this country from financial ruin. There's a lot of good people in this race. A lot of good people. The Republican side has great candidates. Okay, I don't knock in them. They're citizens of this country. They all want to step up to the plate because they believe they have what it takes to do the right thing. But I'd like to just point out some subtle differences between me and the rest of this group. If you look, I'm applying for a job. I want you to hire me to represent you in Washington, D.C. So I'm asking you to look at the resume and look at the background and look at who you think is most prepared to do this job. We have a special election that's going to take place on April 17th. And then the winner of that faces the Democrat candidate in the June 12th general election for the special. On the next day or shortly thereafter, as soon as the Secretary of State certifies that election, you are sworn in to Congress. There is no transition like in a normal election where you get elected in the first week of November and you have until the first week of January to get your feet on the ground and hire your staff. You've got to have somebody that's got the background and the experience to literally step off the airplane, get sworn in, and hit the ground running. And I would submit there is no one else in this race that has that background. No one else. I got elected to the legislature in 2008. I immediately took a leadership role in the House, forming a small group of freshmen to hang together, or else we would hang separately, and fight for what we